So I had this idea, right?
Yeah.
I was with systems for many years. I know the systems very well. The casinos collect boatloads of data, but it's incredibly hard, to actually get access to the information and make decisions. And then when you look at your personal life, you want anything, you just type a question and you get the answer. I'm like, why can't we do something like this for systems? So I did my master's in computer science, and then my first job was in healthcare. So I was, building the software that processes your prescriptions. I used to play a lot of sports when I was in college. Now it's it's a little bit difficult to play these sports, but ping pong was one of my favorite game, and I was pretty decent.
Kiran, welcome to the MaxBet podcast. I feel like this has been long overdue.
Long overdue. We've been talking about this for a while.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, guys. And first of all, I want to congratulate you guys. You've started something new, left some cushy jobs and taking a new journey. And as a fellow entrepreneur, I can actually, I'm very happy to see your progress, man.
Appreciate the other guys jumping off the cliff going, hey, it's not just me free falling here, right?
Yeah. Little do you know, this is going to be less about gaming analytics and more about being an entrepreneur.
We said that can of worms.
Just kidding.
But before we get into either of those things, I appreciate Kiran for answering the call to come whoop your ass in ping pong.
Oh, he's good.
Because we walked in and Kiran's like, oh, you got ping pong? And he's like, yeah, Landon's our reigning champ. He was curveballing.
Not today, Junior.
Is that just something? Was that India growing up? You played a lot of ping pong?
I could spin it. I was playing a lot of ping pong when I was in college.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Tells Landon's crossing up his ankles, trying to return the serves.
He came with this, where, you start rallying to kind of get warmed up. He came with the super spin smash ball right into my face. And that was about how we started.
Like a knuckle slider just to get out right off the hop.
Yeah. I used to play a lot of sports when I was in college. Now it's, it's a little bit difficult to play these sports, but ping pong was one of my favorite game, and I was pretty decent at that time.
You're good, man.
Did you compete? Did you actually run around, or was it just like, hey, I beat the boys at the bar?
Just in college, right? But I used to play cricket for my college.
Oh wow!
So there I was pretty serious about it. So I played for my university.
Oh wow!
And then came to the US, and then the focus was on something else.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like now we have to say sticky wicket a couple times in this,
and the googlies, right?
Yeah, the Google. Great googly moogly. Oh man. So you said the focus on something else. So your focus now is on technology, and it seems like that's been most of your career, but you got started in telecom, is that right? Is that when you came over? Is that what you jumped into?
I actually came in to do my master's in chemical engineering.
Okay.
And then the first day the professor said, you got to do your doctorate or PhD, right? To get a good job, but you will get a fantastic job.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not studying for 5 years, man. And then so I said, you know what? I'll just go to computer science because it's I was pretty good at math.
Yeah.
So it sounds logical. Computer science is all about logic. So I did my master's in computer science, and then my first job was in healthcare. So I was, building the software that processes your prescription. So when you go to Walgreens and then you swipe your card and it says, here is your $10 copay. Right. All that transactions were being processed by my company that I was working for. And then pretty much it became a little bit, monotonous.
Just to shoot, yeah. But all right, first though, when you were going into chemical engineering, what did you want to be? Because I feel like you go into that field going, I want to cure cancer.
I got tricked. Okay.
I don't know what your goals are.
Basically, I was not that good with physics.
Okay.
I was pretty good in math and chemistry. And I just assumed chemical engineering is all about chemistry, right?
Yeah. Sounds right.
But it's actually not.
So
you
it
need to know a lot about, the heat transfer, the mass transfer, how compounds interact, how energy gets transferred. I'm like, man, it's like, this is not my cup of tea. But then it was a pretty good university that I went to in India. So I'm like, I'll just, finish. It's not like US where you go and you change, whenever you want, right? You get in and you're committed to that branch for 4 years. That's what you do, right? But then I'm like, let's try coming to the US. And then, fortunately got a visa. It's all luck, right? Getting a visa. And then when I came here, though, it's like I can do chemical engineering and PhDs and all. So I'll just go to computer science.
Interesting.
I just moved to computer science,
I love the setup here that computer science is like the easy throwaway, right? I don't know if you did any computer science classes in college. I think I did one and I was like, I'm out. God, this is too much for me.
It's definitely changed now. So you went from chemical engineering, computer science, healthcare.
And then telecom. right?
And then
Telecom. And now
eventually
gaming.
And now gaming, right? So the healthcare job was good, but I'm like, it was pretty monotonous. Right? So one of my friends used to work for a company called Ericsson, right? There used to be companies like Ericsson, Nokia, Motorola back in the days before
companies.
you have Apple, right?
No big deal.
So I joined Ericsson, and then I worked on all the low-level stuff. I used to work on the so-called edge routers. When you try to, back in the days you had dial-up, right?
Yeah, right.
When you dial up, it actually connects to these edge routers.
Exactly.
They didn't get off the internet.
Yeah, there you go, right? So, but then I did some pretty good stuff there. I was actually part of the team that built the first ever video call that actually ever happened from a phone, a 2G phone with that little, 64 kilobits.
So you invented FaceTime.
I would say one of the 400, 500 founding fathers.
Yeah.
So the first call that ever happened from a 2G phone to a lap to a computer using your phone lines.
Yeah.
I was part of the team that actually built that tech. I was in Sweden for 6 months and, built that cool stuff. And then the telecom bubble happened. And then at that time, my fiance was in Vegas. So I came to Vegas from Sweden. And then it's funny, I actually went to a temple here. And then I met somebody that says, hey, I'm from the gambling industry.
Yeah, right.
Would you like a job?
Yeah.
So imagine getting that offer in a church or a temple, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, okay.
Is this a test?
Yeah.
I'm being tested.
And we're good here. What?
So I just joined Bally,
Wow.
And then, the first day I joined, somebody gave me this board for the S6000s, popular slot machines. And I'm like, wow, I've never worked at such a low level in my life. So I'm going to give it a shot. Because I was thinking this is a 3-month
When you say low level, you mean like entry level kind of thing?
No, I mean assembly code.
Like in the tech, like you're in the details.
Yeah, in the details, right? So very, very, interacting with all the microprocessors on the board. So it was pretty fascinating for me. And I thought the Bally gig was going to be a 3-month gig because I was going to go join Qualcomm or all these other companies, right? Which is where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
The job was so fascinating, and then I went home the first week, and I told my wife we're buying a house in Vegas.
Yeah, right.
And then that's it. I stayed there, and I worked for almost 12 years, man.
What'd your wife think about you going into the gambling industry?
Well, she was in Vegas, so she liked her job at that time.
Okay.
And then I'm getting a job in Vegas, so she's like, yeah, sure.
She understood. Yeah. Easy.
Nobody's,
You didn't, I guess when you get the job offer in Temple, it's probably not against the culture to go work in programming for gaming. Right?
I guess, and then the fact that probably I got it in a temple, my career actually was pretty decent and balanced.
Here's a good sign, right? You should go do this.
Some blessing, from day one, So,
oh, man. And then you were on, so you mentioned one of 500 founding fathers of FaceTime, basically, but like in the Bally days.
Don't say FaceTime, streaming video.
Sorry, streaming video. Yeah. Oh, but I think it was like a call. So not FaceTime for real, but like the predecessor, I guess we'll call it. Don't take anything I say seriously with the naming conventions. But anyway, but in Bally's world, I feel like you were also then founding father on a lot of the cool inventions they've had, like in systems mostly, right? But like as far as like some of the cool modules they brought to the market in the last decade, or I guess 2 decades ago or whatever it was. But
I was pretty lucky, right? So the interesting thing was I joined systems. I was on the game side. I joined systems, and my boss was in Reno.
Yep.
I was in Las Vegas, and I was the only engineer on that little IB board. There's nobody else. Right? For a while, I used to feel, nobody talks to me. My boss is somewhere else. I'm the only engineer. And then somebody said, hey, why do you care? They pay you well. The boss doesn't bother you. You're getting pay hikes. Just do something, pretty good with this opportunity.
Yeah, right.
Then I come up with a few concepts of, putting the IBUs and the GMUs together. And then I pitched it to, the management team. And then they went and told Seminoles at that time, saying, hey, you should try this new board, because Seminoles was trying to go from class 2 to class 3.
Yeah.
And at that time, they thought, G2S is the way to go. And then I built this SAS to G2S converter. And at that time, it was probably the largest systems contract Bally ever got. And we actually sold the product. And then from the time we got the go in January, and then we went live, I think the first site was in April 14th or 15th, in 4 months. We had no product. We built the hardware. It was like unbelievable.
That's what I was going to ask you, because
it's crazy stuff.
We tell stories all the time where Landon has at least one where basically I've heard a few people go, I made this and it's not really real, but it's close. And then like you go sell it. So when they pitch that deal and go, oh yeah, Seminoles wants the size of them, probably 1,000 of them. were you like, oh shit, now we got to go build this thing in the next 4 months? Or was it pretty far along where you're like, hey, we can handle
No. It was, I was pretty confident, call it, stupid or whatever, right? I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity. And then I had pretty good support from Bob Luciano, who was the founder of SDG, who's being now inducted into the Eilers Hall of Fame.
Yeah, right.
I remember walking into his office and along with my boss, Walt, and he says, hey, we're promoting you to manager. I'm like, manage who? I'm the only guy.
You're going to manage yourself.
I can manage.
Exactly.
I don't need a title. He said, no,
Best boss
you
ever.
can actually build a team.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, okay. To do what? To do this Terminals thing, right? I'm like, okay, who do you want? And I picked a few names from the other departments. And next day they were in my team. And Luciano said, whatever you need, And then, they supported me pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we had a team of 6 engineers, I think, along with the hardware guys that built the board. Yeah, we banged out everything from the ground up. And there was a big systems team in Reno. They were doing their part. But I don't know, man. It was just, we could do this. If I could write code, for all this video stuff, this can't be that complicated. It was, But, sometimes when you're young, it's good, right? You
better.
You don't think, how much of a big risk you're actually taking. You just jump and do it, and when it works out, it's great,
So was Bally, now known as Scientific Games, was that your last job before you went and started gaming analytics?
Yeah. So that was Bally was my last job. I mean, I had another startup between Bally and my gaming analytics.
Yep.
But I've done that iView stuff, and then. Myself and a few other guys came up with this whole iView display manager, the picture-in-picture technology. And then, I'm also one of the co-inventors of Elite Bonusing Suite, which actually became a true differentiator for Bally. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, probably made more than $1 billion for that company.
I know. It's got to be wild, though, right? Like on the inventor side, I don't know your process, so maybe we'll talk about that in a second, but like where you're sitting there going, I don't know, let's plug these two things together. I don't know, let's see if it'll do that, right? And then you'd make it do the thing, and then somebody goes, cool, I'm going to go sell 1 million of those.
It's
right? or $1 billion worth.
Well, so that's my question. So you have a cush job, you're building a team, you get to kind of be creative and innovative and build things, which I feel like is every engineer's dream.
Right.
What makes you go, I could go do this on my own?
Just light that on fire and do it myself.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question, right? So I was there for 12 years, and then Scientific Games acquired us. We all made, decent money.
Right, Couple peanuts.
But then, felt like just lost a sense of purpose, right? In the sense, okay, I'm going to I used to drive, by the way, 55 miles each way to the office every single day, and which I enjoyed for many years.
Did you live in Charleston?
Podcast, baby. That's where you listen to it.
Yeah. So it's like I was in San Rafael. Our office was in Pleasanton, the Bay Area. It was a 55-mile each one-way drive.
Yeah.
And then one day it just felt like, man, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then I just quit. I just quit. And I had no plans on what I was going to do next. I left the company, and then for 6 months, I just spent a lot of time in India with my parents.
Yeah.
My parents were not doing well. So in a way it worked out, right? So I was able to spend a lot of time with those
What part
guys.
of India are you from?
It's called Hyderabad. It's a little bit in the south. Right?
So I
Can
heard
you
the
pronounce
south.
that?
Hyderabad?
Yeah.
Was that close?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
I'm like pretty good
good job,
good for what I look like. It's is that the cool part? I feel like India South has always been told is like the cooler part.
If I say that's
You're
the only
biased.
cool part,
Yeah.
but it has one of the best foods in the country.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know if you guys have been to the Indian restaurants, but there's something called biryani, right? And it's served in most restaurants here. Hyderabad is like it's the place.
That's the place
if you want to
for
eat biryani, you got to eat from
what,
Hyderabad.
so what's in that dish? I don't know that.
It's typically made with mutton, chicken, but I'm a vegetarian, so there's actually a vegetarian version.
Perfect, yeah.
But it's a pretty elaborate process, right? So you cook all the vegetables, you put all these tons of spices in there, and then you kind of cook the rice like 60%, and then you put the rice on it, and then you seal it with flour, right? You make a batter out of it, and then you just steam cook it for like 20-30 minutes, and it just comes out fluffy.
We're eating Indian food next week.
Yeah, what are we doing? Why wouldn't we?
if there's one dish I want to eat before I die, it's biryani.
Biryani,
So
yeah.
if that was my last item, meaning
we just went to the last meal. Like now
that's my last meal, right?
Is there anywhere in Vegas where it's even close to good? Is there anywhere you found not even close?
No. You got to come to the Bay Area.
The Bay Area, okay.
Yeah.
I'll be there tomorrow.
I thought he was going to say I got to come all the way to southern India. I was going to be like, okay, that's a little harder, but Bay Area we could do.
Yeah. So it just happened, Then I came back and I started another company. That was my first startup. In the B2C side, I was thinking that, I could just go into any vertical and just, crack it, right?
Start stealing. Yes.
Did we get to know what that company was? Or
it's called Kitty. It's a window, right? In my language, it's a window. It's a window to a new world where you can connect to people more in the physical space instead of the virtual worlds, etc.
Yeah.
So I thought I could change the world with this new app, and then you quickly realize.
Was that before Facebook?
No, this isn't. Exactly. Right? That's stupid of me, right? Yeah. But then you realize it's very, very difficult to get people's attention. You got like an average phone has 70 apps or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but it's just my money and one more guy, one of my friends, and then we just did it for a year. And I'm like, this is not going anywhere. I mean, just not cut out for it, right? But we learned a lot about machine learning in that startup. Like, okay, then why can't I apply some of those techniques in the gaming industry?
Casino, go B2B.
And then that's how I started, gaming, or I thought about gaming analytics. And then it's pretty interesting. So I had this idea, right?
Yeah.
I was with systems for many years. I know the systems very well. The casinos collect boatloads of data, but it's incredibly hard, to actually get access to the information and make decisions. And then when you look at your personal life, you want anything, you just type a question and you get the answer. I'm like, why can't we do something like this for systems?
Right.
You call it analytic systems, whatever, right? So one day just that thought came up. And then I made a little PowerPoint and then I went to the ICE show. Right?
Oh, there you go.
So I had a good job offer at that time. Mind you, I was 1.5 years without a paycheck, spending all my money from the business.
Right.
So I went to the ICE show in London in 2017. And I pitched it to anybody who would want to listen, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody said, if you could pull it off, that's what the industry needs.
Right.
And at that time, I know that, doing it like a search engine would work, but I didn't know how to build it. I just wanted validation that
on the idea.
This is something that casinos would actually love.
Right.
And then I came back to the US and then I told no to the other job and said, you know what, I got to give this one more shot.
We're doing this.
Otherwise, I'm going to regret, for quite a bit, right? And then, March 9th, I think of 2017, I incorporated the company. I'm like, what the heck do I name it? People spend okay, it's gaming, it's analytics. Okay, we call it gaming analytics.
Yeah.
And then that's how the thing started, man. It's crazy.
That's good.
Yeah, that's an easy way to go. Well, that's always the hard part, naming it, right? Is coming up. What would people hear and go, oh, I get it, what they do? Or are you going to be just a ridiculous brand like with Google? Which at first was like, what's a Google? Now everybody goes, it's a verb. Like, I'm going to Google it. I know what Google, like, it's so normal.
I always called your company the Google of gaming analytics.
Well, right. Yeah.
Like so many of these so many companies have analytic tools, but then you give it to your employees and they don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
But if you could just have a search bar and you say like, who is my most valuable player today?
Yeah.
Search and boom, it's there. Yeah. Pretty wild.
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
So, how can our personal life information that you want to get in your personal life is so easy, and when you go to the office, everything is so complicated, right?
Yeah.
So that's the beauty, and I cannot think of a better way to access information than just searching for it or even asking for it. You can actually, we also have a voice integration.
Yep.
You can speak to it. And that's how it started.
Show me my data.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
It's a little bit tricky for it to pick up my accent, but for the rest of the guys, I think it's fine.
Program your own bias. I mean, it should speak Indian if you're programming it. So why is that? You mentioned. So I do notice that though when you're talking about like business applications, they seem inherently more difficult to use than a consumer-facing application, right? You pick up the new iPhone, you download an app, you go. Generally speaking, it's pretty easy to use. You log into the B2B stuff and you're like, why is it so clunky? Like, why is it so clunky? I mean, you're designing all these systems. Like, is it just something about it where it's just easier to?
Yeah, I think, it comes down to the user empathy, right? So when you build a B2C app, you got to get the user hooked onto your app in the first 2 minutes,
Yeah.
maybe less, right? Most people drop off in the first 3 screens, when you download an app. Because I also have boatloads of choice. If not this app, I'll go download another.
Sure.
When it comes to the B2B side, it's like you're making this multi-million-dollar sale, and then once somebody buys that product, the switching costs are pretty high, right?
Yeah.
So you make the sale, they're kind of stuck with you for a while, and you say, hey, I'm going to train people, and then hopefully they'll learn. And that user empathy for the business users I don't think people pay that much attention, because if you don't do a good job with your app, they're gone.
Yeah, right.
Whereas if you don't do a good job with the business systems, you still have time.
Because they're forced to use it.
You might complain about me in the break room, but you ain't going anywhere. I get it.
So I always wondered, why it wasn't that. I think, my answer is, the user empathy is lacking. They build good products, even all the systems companies, they build great products that actually enhance the experience of the players, even if you take the bonusing systems or whatever, right? But then they don't consider the actual business user as their end customer.
Right.
So that's kind of, I think, is a mindset thing, right? So because people say, who's your customer? It's the player. So I'm going to make a product better for the player, but who's actually using it and making decisions? It's the back office user, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think is the missing part.
It's like Salesforce to me. When we were using Salesforce, it was like so complicated. You want to stay away from it, even though you need to use it for the business. It's like, I don't really want to deal with that. And then even the managers are like, I don't want to deal with training 10 people on something that I don't even know how to use. So
I didn't mind training the other 9. You were the problem child with Salesforce. No, but you're right. You're right. Because
it's not a paid advertisement for Salesforce.
Yeah, it's for Landon. It's the opposite. But no, you're right. Because it's like, I think what they're trying to do is so many things in one. That you go, well, how do you fit it all in? Right? Like if your app, most apps I feel like now are very specialized. So you're like, here's my camera with the camera filters. Okay, I get it. Right. Like, but this in a system or especially casino, it's like, well, it's player tracking, it's data management, it's XYZ, all these other things. And it's like, well, how do you do that on one screen or in one interface? Right. So, I mean, I get it, but it's.
So I thought, we're going to bring that simplicity of the regular apps into the business world, and we see, pretty, fantastic results, right? So one of the things people don't appreciate is the value of time, right?
Yeah.
So when I talk to these operators, they've got a lot of things to do, right? You talk to a technician, to a CFO, analyst, slot director, they've got a lot of things to do in their daily life, and to do those things, they spend about 60 to 70% of their time trying to get that information. Right? So they're kind of bogged down in that, getting the information part. And then for them to adopt new technologies and improve their operations or even spend time about machine learning and AI, you need time. Right?
Yeah, right.
So I felt, what we see with our product is, you're able to create time. And once you create time, then, you have actually more bandwidth to think about new things and you start embracing more and more of the new technology, right? So that's the first step.
And that ultimately transitions over to the player having a better experience, right? Because if now I know that this player is a higher value player and it doesn't take me a week to figure it out and he's on my floor now, and now I have the time to go out and interact with him, which ultimately adds more value to the property.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
So what we have seen, for example, is, and by the way, our company is not just search. There's a lot of machine learning, revenue forecast, slot. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes, right? So what we have seen, with some of our customers is because they've got easy access to information, all the machine learning models we have in terms of slot recommendations, moves, etc. They've cut down the number of moves. They're able to cut down the number of moves that they make, which means technicians, instead of spending 70% of the time making moves, they're only spending 5-10% of the time making it. So what happens to the rest of the time? They're actually becoming customer facing. So you're able to service the customers more. So indirectly, by making the business user's life easy, you're also improving the player experience. But you're coming at it from a different angle.
So is that just like a general learning that you've seen then? Because people move games a lot, right? And I assume it's based on instinct, I guess. I don't really know why you would do it. So what you're saying is like maybe data-wise, like, hey, you don't have to move them that many times. You can keep them where they are and they'll be okay.
I think a lot of them, it's a trial and error, right? So they have a gut feeling. They have a hunch. They try it out, right? They try it out and they figure out what works and what doesn't work. But technology has evolved so much, right? Because the software can actually learn every single move that you've made in the past. And our algorithms figure out what actually would work on your casino floor and what would not. and tells you with a 95% confidence interval that make these 3 changes. Right?
So I guess I'm interested in this because, I mean, think about when we were selling slot machines, that side of the business, you're going in and, we do our dog and pony show and somebody goes, I'll put a bank of games in for you. And they go, oh, it's not doing so good. Mm-hmm. It's less than we wanted it to be. One of our first moves is, can we move it? Can we take it from where it is to put it anywhere else? Because it's not me, it's the spot, right? Yeah. Like it's always the answer. So you go, maybe it's not the spot. Like are you finding that? I mean, what is, instead of moving it, maybe what is some of the things that the system's spitting out? Is it just reconfigure the settings on that game, or is it just saying, hey, that game's not going to work out?
It's multidimensional. Yeah. Right? One is reconfiguring the game. The other is, recommending conversions. Right? The third is recommending, how many cabinets to buy from what manufacturer, right? Cabinets, models, and all that stuff, right?
So your system will spit that out. So when you're looking at a floor and you're saying, hey, look, this floor is doing well, we feel like it's generally optimized, these 2 things could help, but then you're going to buy just 100 games this year. Here's the recommended mix of those games.
And it also tells you, let's say you have 1,000 games, you probably don't need 1,000 games. You only need 900 games, right? And here is the split of what you need to have, right?
Wow.
So it's pretty, fascinating,
You could almost use that data on the vendor side. So I know that we would take weeks to compartmentalize all the data that we would get sent in from the casinos and try to compile some sort of data to say, hey, we should configure it this way. Hey, we should. Are you guys working with vendors outside of just the properties?
No, right now we're only working with the properties, right? We're not sharing that data or selling that data to the vendors, right? But even in your example, right, on the vendor side, you only get the summarized data, right?
Yeah.
So we are able to get actually all the player information, right? The players that actually play. What are their preferences? What are their risk tolerances in terms of playing a game? And do you have enough supply of games that matches the player's risk profile of your casino? So that level of detailed information, it's pretty, I don't know if, vendors have access to that kind of information. We're able to, analyze all of that. So it's just not based on, the overall performance of the game. It's actually tying players' risk profiles to the game risk. We call it volatility, right? So we are actually able to reverse engineer volatility for these games. So now we can say, hey, 40% of your players prefer low risk games, but you only have 30% of those on the floor, right? So now here are the actual games you need to buy. Right? So
interesting.
That's pretty fascinating.
Reverse engineering volatility sounds like a big deal.
Yeah.
I can't even say that again. Whatever you just said, I like it. Where are you installed right now, and how's it going?
Yeah, so good question. Yep.
Proof's in the pudding.
Proof's in the I want the pudding. Let's get down to the pudding.
We are installed in about 8 different states in the US. We got Vegas, Reno. We have Sahara in Las Vegas. We got Grand Sierra. We are in Resorts World, Catskills. We are at Gulfstream, West Virginia, Oklahoma.
Yeah, completely different markets.
Yeah. Awesome. And then we even got a deal with Penn recently.
Well, so it's a big company. It's heard of them.
Yeah. And then we won a pretty big deal in Mexico. It's called Play City or Televisa.
Yeah, Televisa's big.
Yeah. It's a pretty big account. So so we got a number of casinos that are already live, and in the last month and a half, we've been swamped with all these new installs, right? But
that's
it's going pretty good.
Congrats on that, right? So that's always a big one. But so then, what are some of the fun things that you're seeing, right? Because it's like, hey, and I guess, is there anything unexpected? Because I would imagine as you design a system like this, and the CEO, but the head of engineering, and you're going, hey, here's what we think will happen. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed anything? You go, oh, well, that we didn't account for, but the machine kind of learned it, and now we're seeing these trends. Or is there anything?
Yeah, there's actually a number of things, right? One is our revenue forecasting is pretty incredibly accurate.
Oh, wow.
Right? We pretty much, in most places beat, what the casinos, forecast. Right?
So your forecast is more accurate.
Yeah, 96, 97% accurate. Right? And that was pretty surprising for me also. Right?
Yeah.
When, you think that, you have an answer to this, but when you build the model and you include all the external parameters, like even the impact of COVID on player behavior, on your revenues. So that was, I think it worked much better than I anticipated. And when we show them, hey, we're only off by 2%, you're off by 8%. It's like, that's pretty incredible. And just
aren't you glad you called this guy?
Exactly. Yeah, bring in Kiran. So How is it like, so when you say like, hey, we factor in COVID and these other things, like, is that just because whatever that trend is going to be shows up every day in the carded play and the regular data, and your system can pick up on it better than like a human could? Or are you doing external things that also add in?
Yeah. So one of the things we have done is, we not only know the time periods when the casino closed, when the casino opened, what the COVID rate is. We also started incorporating the COVID cases, the rate, if the county was in red, yellow,
like orange or whatever.
Those status, and then we were able to actually figure out, what happens when the status go from green to yellow, right? How does that impact performance? And then once you see some of the data, good or bad, right? COVID has lasted for what, almost 2 years now, right? So there's enough trending information that you can actually glean out of it and then predict based on the cases, right? What is going to happen? So we are able to augment that external data into coming up with these forecasts. Right? So,
and how far back do you pull data from?
about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. 5 is the maximum.
Yeah.
Anything beyond 5 it's like, judging me based on how, when I was 20 years old. Right? I'm a different person.
Your college Twitter feed is not who you are today, right? Is what you're saying. That's interesting. I think the 2% thing is interesting. Like, is that, you think it's just humans that go, I don't believe it. So like maybe their model would say what your model says, but they go, I'm going to discount that, or I'm going to ramp it up to make my case in terms of in front of the
There
boss
is always a little bit of skepticism when it comes to machine learning. And rightfully so, right? It's not 100% accurate. It will never be 100% accurate, right? But every customer kind of, they see the product, they see the demo. And one of the good things in our demos is we take permission from one of our existing customers and actually show the real product.
Real demo,
right? So there's some credibility there. And then we also tell them, hey, just only give us data until 2021. Yeah, right. So we're not even seeing 2022. And we predict 2022.
Interesting.
And then now you can...
It's like a magic trick.
Yeah.
What scares me, we were having a conversation in our last podcast about robots entering into the workforce, right? When those robots start sharing data with Kiran's data set, and it's like, Bob over here is having a bad time, and then Salt the robot comes up and gives him a cupcake. Like,
Salt, nice.
That is coming.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a different world. Our industry traditionally has been a little bit slow to adapt to new technology trends. But what I've seen, I think because of COVID, because of it's becoming very difficult to hire people across the board. More and more operators, right? I think we've done more demos in the last 6 months than in the last 2 years or so, right? Because a lot of customers, realizing it's difficult to get people, and I cannot do the business the same way that I did before. I have to change, and then technology is actually the way to change the way you think. And
I mean, when your point earlier about creating time is critical, right? Because I would imagine most of your core customers are the executives in the company, in the casino. Because I'll tell you, when in my last role, the quarters where we suffer, and just in our micro region, were the quarters when I got really dragged into the weeds.
Yeah.
Because when I'm sitting there going, hey man, I got to go run the report or type in the thing, and you do it because I got to get done.
Yep.
It's hard because what you give up is your strategy time.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the GMs and their real leadership sits when they sit back and go, so where are we taking this thing? Yeah. Where are we going to go next? And it's like, if you're in the weeds, that's what goes first.
Yeah. So
it sounds like this solution is going, oh no, we'll take care of the weeds. We got all the data, all the analysis, or at least first pass analysis. Go ahead and strategize.
Focus on
and then this will back up your decisions, right? So that to me is like the most impressive thing is like we create time.
Yep. And the key thing is not just the executives, right? I've seen improvements in the way an analyst performs, because now they don't have to write all these complicated queries, right? We're able to tell the player development team, which players need to be actually coded, what is the future value of a player. So in terms of helping the operators groom their next base of customers, like for example, common, terminology, 20% of the players give you 80% of the revenue. That's great, right? But how are you going to find...
Is that true? Like, have you seen that?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Pretty right. I mean,
of course, there's another 20-80 within that 20.
Mike, everybody knows that.
But here's my problem. What I'm learning is we all say it, and some guy in the 80s wrote it in a book, but he's doing it in real life, so I want to verify.
But the key, right, is how do you groom the next set of those 20% of those players, right? So that's where, value is created by machine learning, because if you look at the traditional methods, Mike comes in, his TO is $50, and that's how you get treated. But the software is actually able to predict there's an 80%, 90% chance that Mike could be a $50,000 per year player. So now if you are armed with that information, the whole interaction that the casino has with you is totally different, right?
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
It's like predicting your future value,
right? And
then making decisions based on the future value. It's pretty simple, very similar to how
yes, it's simple. Like this is so simple. AI,
well, remember, it's
programs,
it
data.
ain't chemical engineering, bud. This is just computer science. It's not that hard.
I don't even know if I'm in the right universe right now.
How could you be?
It's done in many places. Like for example, let's say I apply for a credit card, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? I apply for a credit card, and then somebody says, where does Kiran live? What's his income?
Yeah.
What is his past history? And then how much credit limit they're asking for? And then let me look at all the players that have similar characteristics to Kiran, and then see how did those customers actually, behave, and were they valuable to my business? And then they're able to predict and say, you know what, I'm going to give Kiran a $20,000 credit
in
limit,
like minutes.
Yeah. So it's pretty much, if you think about it, it's pretty much, a similar techniques. Here it's not. It's age, it's gender, it's distance, but it's also the machines that you're playing, your risk tolerance, the offers you're getting. You're just combining different set of attributes. Like, the credit card company operates on a different set of attributes, but the concept is the same. Right? And it's pretty powerful. And, we're working with a lot of our customers to actually embrace that, that having them change the way they do the business, it's pretty difficult, and rightfully so, because the casinos make a lot of money and you have to be very, very careful. But I could see once we created time, now people are, let me actually try this out, try that out, try this out.
Yeah, and we're talking casinos, right? But most of these casinos have more than just gaming. So is there a limit to what you could put in? So if you had it available, could you just take in the resorts and the dining and the spa and all the other stuff, and then would that make for a better informed decision, or is that just polluting the system?
No, I don't think so. So one of the things, we are going towards is becoming like an enterprise analytics, right? So today, the whole dynamics of who your player has changed. Before it was slots, it's tables, maybe a hotel customer. Now you're on the online side, you're doing sports betting, you got these apps. So your and these customers all could be same, could be different, but your interactions have gone up, quite a bit, right? So the key now is not to figure out what the value of the player just from a casino perspective. What is the value of that player from my whole enterprise?
Yeah.
And on that note, we've done pretty good work. Right now, we know everything about the player, from the slots, from tables, POS, hotel transactions. So we have something called as a Player 360. That's probably pretty robust to compared to what's out there. And we've been talking about this Player 360 in this industry for like since 2010
for a while.
Hasn't happened, but I think we've come a long way with our company.
So this is crazy. This is so much to it's awesome. What was like your biggest challenge going from this amazing concept that you've just delivered to actual working product?
Okay, so then now the journey of a startup. Right?
Let's talk about. Let's go back to this startup.
I think it has less to do with the technology, because any technology challenges generally, if you have the right set of people, you can solve it. Right? So the problem, initially for me, like I started the company and, I just hired a couple of guys. It's actually getting used to the no's, right? I was not a sales guy. I was an engineer. Yeah, I did my share of demos, but I was not a sales guy, right? And then, you go pitch. Some people will love it, and then you get super excited.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, the deal doesn't happen, especially in the early stages.
Yeah.
And then you get so down, right?
Right.
And then you got to pick up yourself and say, okay, I'm going to spend. I could always quit my job and go find another. But you always have to stand up and say, okay, I still believe in this concept. I'm going to push for that. Actually, understanding that part, that journey was very difficult. Taking the no's, right? And that was like super hard for me, especially if I was in sales and all, at least, I would have been used to taking some no's, right? I was not used to taking no's. That was pretty difficult. And then number two is, this is one of the challenges of B2B, right? The lead times, here in our industry, you operate in months, I love your demo. Let's talk next week. That's great. But most of them will say, let's talk next month. Like, do you imagine how much a month is for a small company,
exactly.
especially in the early stages? And now we're past that stage. We got pretty good revenue. were set, right? In the early stages, like a month is a long time, man. You know, why can't you just at least tell me no now?
Yeah.
You know, why
Don't break up with me later. Just cut me loose now.
Getting used to that kind of stuff was very difficult for me. And I used to work for Bally Scientific Games. You know, I built, you know, pretty large teams. I had like a couple of 100 people in my team. So there's always somebody, you know, to help you out.
Yeah.
Right? In a startup like you guys are going, you have to do everything.
That's right.
You have to build these walls. You got to get the brick. You got to get the cement. You got to put it together.
Yep.
And
I had to learn how to use a bandsaw just to even cut the brick.
Yeah.
That was scary.
And nobody tells you all that stuff, right? You only see all this, you know, cool startups that are, you know, doing amazingly well. But nobody really tells you the difficulties.
Yeah.
And that learning for the first 1 year, it was a nightmare, but it was actually, you know, pretty interesting.
For
right?
sure. And I think for us, like somebody sent the graph and it basically looked like a W, right? And it was like, hey, the life of an entrepreneur. And it's like, hey, we're doing it. And then it's like, what are we doing? What have we done? Right? And it's, we're going to, you're up and down. And I just replied back. I go, yeah, that was just Tuesday. Like that's not, forget the whole life. That was just one day. And I think it's so important, right? Because there's times where you're in the pit of that. And what's nice is talking to other entrepreneurs and they all go, totally normal. Like it gets better. And a lot of times they'll say, like we had a guy the other day we were chatting with and he goes, hey, you're actually 95% further than everybody else. Like you don't know it because you're in it. Exactly. But you're doing pretty good. I'm like, oh, okay, good. Like it's nice, just reassurance, right?
That was, I was fast the first 1 year, you know, and then you get lucky. Sometimes you need luck also, right? I remember, actually when I started the company, there was one casino that said, Kiran, start the company. We will actually be your first pilot, right? And that's when I actually took money from my bank and on March 9th. And then once I incorporated the company, they stopped responding to me. I'm like, dude, you know, you said you would actually do this. And that's why I started the company. And now I don't even, you don't even pick up my calls. What the heck am I supposed to do? Because I had three people, I think, hey, we've got our first customer. That's great for a startup.
Yeah,
right?
You need that.
You know, we didn't even incorporate and then we have a customer, at least verbal commitment. Then I realized that's not how it works, right? And then it took us 6 months to actually find a customer in Argentina. So
I think your point about luck, I think luck favors the prepared. So I think that you get smashed down, and I know it sounds super cheesy.
Fortune favors the bold. That's all you're trying to say.
No, but it's true because you could be smashed down and get all down and be down for a week. But if you get back up that day, you never know. Someone might walk in the door, you're in a better mood, and then opportunity comes. It's like it favors the prepared, right? Yeah. So multiple times, you just got to keep fighting through those challenging times, and then other things present themselves by continuing to be persistent. Write that down. Did you write that down?
Don't be a fool. Stay in school.
Then, you know, and then slowly you build the confidence because once you're able to survive for the first couple of years, then you know you're on to something. It's going to happen. The first 2 years, in fact, most startups shut down in the first year, and then very few survive 2, and then generally if you're still there after 3, the odds of you going down is relatively low.
Kind of the real deal.
And now you're a real deal, you know. So,
where are we on the timeline? 2.5 years?
Well, I still call it 5 months. I mark our real launch from when we left. Yeah, because I feel like that's when it became our company.
That means we have 2.5 more years of this. I'm out of here.
Well, it's funny because I look at you and he's saying all this, and I'm going, well, there's days I want to strangle you, right? I'm sure that goes both ways, but it's like there's also days I'm like, man, I'm really glad I'm not in this foxhole by myself, right? Because there's, you never know what it is, and we kind of divide the responsibilities. Like we're both good at different things, so there's days where maybe my side of the business is going a little bumpy, but he's riding on the clouds, or then vice versa. And I'm like, I'm glad to see that it's not all bad news, or vice versa. I give you some good news when it's not. So that's critical. I mean, hopefully your guys were around you, kind of doing the same.
Yeah, I mean, a good co-founder, is really important. Yeah. And for me, the early guys, right? Krishnan, he and I worked at Bally for many years. When I left the company, he left after a few months, and we did our first startup together, which failed. But then he stuck with me. We believed in this concept, and then he said, "Okay, let's give it a shot." So the early team, was really, really important. And then we got lucky with a bunch of amazing data scientists we were able to hire. So we've got some great analysts, some great customer success folks. So while myself and a few of the early employees and founders were persistent, we also got pretty lucky with some excellent talent that are equally committed to the cause. And now I think we're in a pretty good shape. So.
That's what I think is like really flattering, a little overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
When you hear like early days, even now, people going, we believe in you guys to the, like, we can get tattoos. And you're like,
People have said
I
that.
know.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, like I'm in, like I got, like, we're doing it. Like, but it's just like, holy hell. Like that's when it becomes like super real. Cause like, of course you're going to drink your own Kool-Aid. Like you're not going to torch your big job just to go do this if you don't think it's going to work.
Yeah.
But when then people around you are going, no, we're marching with you. It's like, oh, now we're leading something. It's fun.
Exactly. See, I think, one of the things I've learned from this startup is the people that I expected to get some help, I don't think I got any help. Mm-hmm. The people I did not expect any help actually, helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, interesting.
So I remember doing the pitch to Laureline McCarthy or Laureline Sandoval.
Yeah, Sandoval now, right.
In London, the same ice show.
That? Yeah.
And then she's like, I love this concept. I'm going to give you, the first round of seed money. And I'm like, I only met her 2 or 3 times before that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, actually somebody that's not me believes in the concept.
Yeah.
And that's actually a pretty big deal, right? And then, Omar Khatar, comes in. I remember calling him one day saying, hey, I just started this company. How do I get my first 3 customers? You've been in the business for a few years. Help me out, right? And then he says, we'll help you get some money, right? And he helped me, get my initial round of funding. So people that I did not, expect any help really helped me a lot. And that was like fascinating for me, right? So it's a little bit disappointing that some of the help that I expected didn't come, but it came from a different corner.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for those guys, for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's funny, that was like Katie for us.
Yeah, well, she was great.
We just went to tell her about it. She's like, I'm in. We're like,
I'm in right now. It's like, what?
Let's go.
Okay, yeah. Can I kiss you in public or no? Like that's no, I would never do that. Nothing unprofessional. But like, yeah, you get so excited, right? And you're just like, man, and they believe in us in this case, or you in your case, right? Which is good. And what I always thought was interesting was how, to your point, so many people, once you jump, they go, you're going to be scared right now. So I'm a resource. Like, call me if you need anything. Here's a question. Here's a connection. Here's a potentially fundraising. Like, it's really interesting to see. And to your point, not who I thought. I don't know that I had very many like disappointed expectations where I thought, oh, that guy's going to get me, and he didn't. But most of the folks I needed to call for advice are still advising or helping us out. But yeah, it's wild to see how many people you now know that are going, hey, let's talk about that, because you're going to need some my life experience to help you succeed, right? So,
well, here's a little bit of a disappointment for us. We're at 45. We're on the timer. So I would like to ask,
go fast.
Kiran, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to talk about while we have you here?
Wow, that's do we have 2 more hours? Nice.
Keep it short.
I mean, I do, but we'll see. I don't know if people will listen to that one.
No, I thank you guys for the opportunity
No,
to
thank
talk
you.
to your audience. All I would say to the listeners is, the time has come for our industry to actually do things differently, right? We can't expect doing the same things that we were doing before and expect extraordinary results. To actually get extraordinary results, you actually have to do extraordinary things.
Yeah.
Right.
And the time is ripe for all of you guys to embrace, machine learning, AI, and start adopting these technologies. And then there's no way but to go up.
So if you're listening and you want to differentiate yourself as a casino operator, give Kiran a call. Step outside the box. AI is coming into the world.
Promo code MaxBet for a discount.
Promo code MaxBet for a discount.
Right on the invoice.
We haven't had that.
Get a little lower. All right, so you've designed all these products in the gambling world. Do you gamble yourself? Like when you're out traveling, you ever play a slot or hit the tables?
No, only when I was actually a little bit drunk.
So that's the gaming story we want. So how was that? How'd that go? You had a couple beers or something?
It's funny, right? I used to watch a lot of World Series of Poker on TV, but I never played. So we had a users conference at Paris or one of those casinos,
town,
right? And then it was a good show because typically in the users conference they used to showcase a lot of products that me and my team has built. It went well, so I had a couple drinks, and then I took $50 and went to poker table. Texas Hold'em. I started playing, and within like 45 minutes, I got like $1,100 or something, right?
50 to 11.
It was insane. In fact, there were some hands where I thought I actually lost, and I was walking away, and the guy who had a bad beat says, "You idiot, you actually won the hand."
He's the river guy. He's catching them all in the river, and they're hating his ass.
Look at this guy. He doesn't even know he won.
He's got 4 aces. He's confused.
And then they hate you.
it was unbelievable, and then I made a lot of money, and then I had a few more shots like that. Next time I'm like, this is easy. So I took the $1,000 the next day. I probably lost in like 15 minutes when I didn't have alcohol.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Well, that's the key. You need, it's like Raj in Big Bang. You need the alcohol to get you to be poker guy, right? Like you need that. It helps loosen you up a little. That's funny.
Well, Kiran, we appreciate you, and we do the call out, the MaxBet call out is kind of our last question for you. So if there's anyone that you would like to see us interview,
who do you think we should have on?
If you know them and can strong arm them come on now.
Okay, so I've got a few people, but I think you should talk to Annie Pham.
Okay.
She runs marketing for Emerald Queen in Washington. As you know,
that'd be great.
Cool, yeah.
It's a pretty big
casino.
casino.
It's a big one.
They do a lot of great things with such a small team.
Yep.
And I think she's awesome. And I think your audience need to hear from her.
Perfect. You should warn her that she's about to be called out on the show, because otherwise she'll get a bunch of texts going, "Hey, Annie, you're good." She'll be like, what the hell? Who are these idiots?
I'm going to tell her. I didn't tell her that I'm going to say her
That's
name.
good. No,
I gotta wait for her.
Those are the best kinds. Yeah, those are the best kinds.
So,
well, we appreciate you coming by, brother. This has been fun.
Yeah.
thanks a lot. And I
Awesome.
wish you guys all the best, man. You guys are going to kill it. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Boom.